The Batman, Dracula. The Batman versus Dracula. Why does this keep happening? Let's find out today on Hack the Movies. And we're filming this in Buffalo Bill's house in Perryopolis, Pennsylvania. Go to buffalobillshouse.com for more information. Hi, everyone. Tony from Hack the Movies here. And I'm here with, who are you? Properly introduce yourself.
I am Lena.
Okay.
Author, podcast host, vampire expert.
Okay.
But most importantly, your co-star from The Dark Knight Rises.
You were in the hit film, The Dark Knight Rises.
Yes, Tony, I was.
I have to do these episodes all the time with these friggin' nobodies. What's Johanna been in? Nothing.
I know.
Gil from One Take?
I know.
Gil from Give Me a Break. You've been in nothing. Like all these people. I just want, for once, I want another celebrity. I'm glad I finally have one. Thank you so much for being here. What scene were you in?
I was in the stadium with you, Tony. 50-yard line, front row.
That was the best scene in the film.
Thank you.
That was the best scene. So clearly, we have the most qualified person here to talk about Batman. And she happens to know about vampires, too. That seems to be your whole thing, is vampires.
My whole thing.
If you ever see me at Monster Mania, you might have seen Lena like 2 tables down on the opposite aisle. We're usually seated across from each other.
Somehow we're always across from each other.
Yeah. They always just put you in the same spot, I've noticed.
Yeah.
And yeah, today we're talking about Batman and Dracula. Now, Batman. He's a guy. He's a man who dresses like a bat. You've seen the film. You were in the film. You lived it.
Yeah.
And Dracula, a dude who can turn into a bat and other things. They keep trying to make this a thing. Throughout the decades, we've learned. I forget which one came first, but apparently there was a unauthorized film from the Philippines of Batman fighting Dracula. There are images of it that exist. But the film is considered lost. And then of all people, Andy Warhol apparently filmed his own Batman versus Dracula fan film. I didn't even know fan films went back that far. For me, it's just like, oh, is that that's like an internet thing? I'm
But
like,
who is he a fan of, Batman or Dracula?
I guess he was a fan. Well, you know what? That film was also considered lost. So I don't know which one. Because a lot of these versus movies, it always leans in one direction. Like the new Godzilla and Kongs, they're more Kong movies. Freddy versus Jason, more of a Freddy movie. Okay. Yeah, there's not a lot of balance in a lot of these films, so we'll never know until they find it. But there's some images that exist of that. Yeah, for whatever reason, they keep wanting to pair these two up. And then they finally did it in the 90s with Batman and Dracula, Red Rain. This is an Elseworld comic. Do you know what Elseworlds are?
No.
Luckily, they have a description on the back.
Good.
Okay. In Elseworlds, heroes are taken from their usual settings and put into strange times and places. Some that have existed or might have existed, and others that can't, couldn't, or shouldn't exist. The result is stories that make characters who are familiar as yesterday seem as fresh as tomorrow. So yeah, it's something that they do in comics where they're like, we want to do the story, but it'll mess up the current continuity. So it's going to be in its own its
own thing.
Own individual continuity. And I think one of the guys who worked on this also did Gotham by Gaslight, which is Batman in like the 1800s looking for Jack the Ripper. They made an animated movie of it recently. Don't watch it. But the comic's really good. And I remember hearing about this a lot in the 90s. This was like a big comic. I've seen like statues and stuff about it. And I finally went through it recently, and it is a good time. You've read it too recently, I heard.
I have, very recently. Right. So I knew in periphery that this existed.
Yes.
Because I love Dracula.
Yes.
But it wasn't until you mentioned it that I was like, fine. I'll do it.
And you said, I will make sure to read that before the video. And technically...
I did.
Technically, you read it before the video. I thought it was going to be more than 5 minutes before.
You didn't specify.
I really should have.
You said before the video. This
goes back to the Paranormal Activity where I told Cecil, I'm like, all right, you have 4 or 5 months to watch all the Paranormal Activities. And as we're recording, he's like, I didn't watch the last one.
To my defense, you only sent it to me 3 weeks ago. That's not a lot of time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So a brief synopsis of the comic is Dracula's coming to town.
As he does.
As he does. He just shows up in town.
You never know.
Hi, how you doing? I'm Dracula.
He could
new
be
in
right
Gotham.
outside.
He's drinking the blood of like drug addicts and getting weird. And at the same time, I don't know if it's ever really because of him. There is red rain throughout Gotham. And they blame it on pollution and stuff.
Right. Alchemy. I think at one point she says alchemy.
Okay, so it is Dracula who's doing it. Is that
Is
is that a thing from vampire lore? Can they make?
I have never heard that, but
Okay.
I have been doing this a long time, and I still get surprised
Okay.
at the stuff that they will say vampires can do.
So yeah, Dracula's just feeding on junkies, killing them, leaving them in the streets. Obviously, people are upset. They're like, "What the hell's going on here?" Batman investigates, and it's actually a really interesting story. We find out like there are rogue vampires who were turned by Dracula, but have decided not to be killers, and their mission is to stop him. But because they were turned by him, he has control over them. So they're trying to team up with the Batman to take him down. He has a cool plan at the end where the rogue vampires lure all the new vampires to the Batcave, just blow up Wayne Manor on top of them and kill all of them. And then Batman purposely turns himself into a vampire.
Yes.
And I guess since he wasn't turned by Dracula,
Correct.
he is stronger. He's not as manipulated by him. And they duke it out. And it's cool to see Dracula as a bat person.
Yes.
And Batman in his bat suit, but now with like bat shit all over.
Very cool bat wings.
Very cool. The artwork in this
So good.
is incredible.
Yes.
I need to look up whatever else this artist worked on. I'm just like, I kept looking through it. I'm like, this is the most beautiful Batman book I've ever seen.
Even just the cursive writing.
Yes.
I was like, it's so nice.
Yes. It's very bloody. They have a fun way to killing Dracula.
Yes.
Fucking impales him in a sleeping.
What was the sound?
Oh, the sound effect. Hold on. Yeah, I got it.
It was like, shoop.
Hold on.
Yeah, it's a good one. So I obviously watched the Batman versus Dracula a couple times for this.
Yes. Shucked.
That's the sound a vampire makes when it falls on a stake.
No, that's the sound of its body going through the spear. The sound the vampire makes is
Correct.
followed by a foom.
Oof. Nuts. So when I was looking at the comic, I didn't expect it to be so dark.
Yeah, no, it is very dark. This is edgy 90s. It makes sense.
I mean, I'm here for it.
Yeah. You should check out Gotham by Gaslight. That's a fun one too.
I will.
Yeah, so they made follow-ups to this, or they made just other stories about Batman fighting Dracula. I didn't include those because I just wanted to read the initial one. Mm-hmm. But that brings us to our main topic. Mm-hmm. The Batman versus Dracula from 2005.
Correct.
Ironically, this is one of my Batman blind spots. Even though I am a Batman fan, I was not watching this cartoon. Somehow I ended up with an action figure of it. I don't remember how I got that.
So I will say this was one of my Dracula blind spots.
Okay, cool. So we were both in a blind spot.
We both went into this like...
Yeah. So when this aired, little backstory, I guess, I was in high school. My childhood Batman, Kevin Conroy, Batman Animated Series, that was still continuing in the Justice League cartoon. So if I was going to watch anything Batman related, it was going to be that. Mm-hmm. I didn't like the art style in this or the animation at the time. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm not digging it. It's whatever. This isn't for me. Catwoman looked weird. She looked like a mouse more than a cat. But in preparation for this, I was like, you know what? Let me at least watch a couple episodes. And I'm actually kind of digging it. I watched like the first like 4 or 5 episodes. And I'm like, oh, this is actually not that bad. And thank God I watched one episode in particular because I was not surprised by what happened. You might have been surprised by what a character does, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But it's actually a little decent cartoon. I want to watch more of it. I know like Gordon shows up at some point.
Okay.
Because they were trying to cash in on how like Batman Begins was like an origin story.
Yes.
Because they were coming out around the same time. Actually, they put this out the same time as Batman Begins because I guess they wanted like a more kid-oriented Batman movie to go along with it.
And that makes sense because you're going to get everybody.
Yes.
So you got the adults with the movie, and you got the kids with the
Yes,
show, and
yes.
you kind of got everybody.
It's weird they went with Batman versus
But
Dracula.
Dracula is. I mean, look at the Monster Squad. That was like Dracula is. Oh, kids have always been into Dracula.
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not many people they've made like 3 Dracula movies recently. I've reviewed all of them and they've all done really poorly, but Universal's like, nah, we're gonna keep trying.
Yeah. Dracula shows up in a lot of things.
Well, yeah, he showed up in one movie, but he is in the other 2 movies that I reviewed recently. So Renfield and Demeter, Dracula's in it. And then Abigail, a guy who might be Dracula.
So he says, I go by many names. But if you look at the Manor, there's allusions to him throughout the whole thing. There's dragons and stags and his crest. And like, it's Dracula. He doesn't say it, which I applaud them. But doing the podcast that I do, the amount of lower budget films that somehow work Dracula into the plot is shocking. And I think it's lazy writing. They're just like, you know what? We're going to make their brother Dracula. Or
oh, wait, is that like a
the
subspecies?
Twist is like,
it was Radu?
Subspecies I love, by the way.
I need to rewatch all those.
Oh my gosh, we will do it.
I want to rewatch all of them and then watch the new one they put out. Is it good?
I don't care. I'm here for whatever they put out. I can recognize it's bad.
Okay.
I'm still here for it.
So yeah, The Batman versus Dracula. I guess we'll get into this film here. Very short film. It's a child's animated film. Direct to video.
It was fun.
Yeah. So we get the opening titles of both their logos. Like the Batman logo, and then Dracula has his own logo. I will say, I don't think they used it for this. But the cartoon, the Batman theme song is terrible, and it's done by The Edge from U2. It's one of the worst Batman themes I've ever heard.
I do have to say, though, the music in this.
Music in this is good.
I even wrote down, like, I'm here
I'm talking
for
about the actual cartoon show.
Yeah.
The Edge just did the opening theme song, and it's like a really bad opening theme song. And I'm like, oh, this is not getting me in the mood. It's way too slow paced. But anyway, so I was excited the music was pumping you up for this one. So we get a look at Arkham Asylum, where they usually send all of Batman's crazy villains. And there's some guy who's planning a breakout. He's like, hey, I got to break out. There is a secret thing of treasure in Gotham Cemetery in the crypt behind the tombstone with the cross on it, which leads to a funny joke.
Yes.
And he's saying this to the Penguin, who asks him more about the plan. He finds out that he told the plan to the Joker, and the Penguin's like,
yeah.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? He's like, that was a terrible idea. Don't do that. Penguin's not happy about it. So Joker takes off without them. And then Penguin's like, all right, well, I'm going to break out. Fuck you, dude. And the dude's like, you can't find it without me. He's like, nah, I'll do my best. And then the Penguin does karate. What was your reaction to that? How much of the Penguin did you know about before going into this?
Really nothing.
Okay.
Danny DeVito played him one time. That's all I know.
And that is not an accurate representation of the Penguin.
And I also know that recently it is now female, which everyone is so mad about.
In the newest animated series, yes.
So
it's Colin Farrell, which his show should be airing by the time this is out. Yeah.
So I will say I was focused more on the vampire stuff.
Okay.
So the Penguin doing karate just.
So for you, you're like, I guess that's just something he does.
Karate, whatever.
Had I not watched his introduction on the show where they say, like, they make a point that he spent a lot of time in Asia because his family, like, lost money and they fled there and he learned all these kung fu moves. So I was, like, going in with that mindset. If I didn't watch the show and I'm just like, holy shit, wait, this Penguin does karate? Where is this coming from?
I just thought that was a thing.
Batman, of course, gets the notification of the breakout. And then we get a classic Penguin and Joker teaming up. It lasts about 5 seconds.
Yes.
Like, it does not last long. They don't even get to, like, start the mission together and get backstabbed. He just backstabs him at the handshake.
Immediately.
Batman chases the Joker, and the Penguin makes it to the cemetery. The statue looked like it was alive. He walks past the statue, and it, like, flashes, and it looks like it's alive. And it reminded me of the Interview with the Vampire movie.
When he's turned and he looks up and the statue turns.
Yeah, the statue's like eyes start to move.
Yes,
Which I reviewed that movie on this channel. And its sequel Queen of the Damned. I say in that episode that the statue moving, I'm like, was that like a hint to future stuff like Queen of the Damned because she was like a living statue?
Because of Akasha, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think it was Akasha, but I think it was like.
But the idea that statues could, yeah.
Yeah, so that was, I feel like there's a few like deep references in this to vampire movies. That's one that I caught. And I love that he gets to the tombstone with the cross on it, and there's like 50.
There's 1,000 crosses in the cemetery. And he's like, I think it's that one. But also, now we watch a lot of horror, so we know this. But if somebody says to you, I have an idea, let's go into the cemetery, go into a crypt, but like, no.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
That never goes well.
I'm good. So yeah, while he's checking tombstones, Batman and Joker have a standoff. And Penguin sneaks into the crypt, and he finds a chained up coffin.
Another thing.
He thought it was going to... Yeah, if there's a coffin that's chained up...
Wrapped in chains.
Wrapped in chains.
Shackled to the wall. There's a crucifix up, like, leave it alone.
It's like the guy in the Evil Dead remake where the book couldn't have had more warnings on it. Like, please...
What are you doing?
Please don't open this up. No, really, don't read this.
So dumb.
So, of course, he opens it. And this reminds me of another movie I reviewed, Dracula 2000, where they...
The cut.
Yeah, with the cut, but also the fact that it was a heist and they find a coffin instead.
Yeah.
Really funny.
But the person cutting themselves in some way and the blood drips into the sleeping vampire.
Yeah.
Classic.
I do like, so this was PG, I think. Almost PG-13. They didn't go super hard because I feel like they wanted it to air on TV. But like Dracula looks cool in like his corpse form.
He does look really cool.
And it looks pretty horrifying.
And the blood drops right into his heart.
Yeah. His heart's like exposed. Great. Oh yeah, and then it brings him back Hellraiser style.
Yes.
Like he like comes back almost in layers.
Yes, and he's shackled by the wrists, by the ankles, and by the throat.
Yeah. He also kind of reminds me of the Interview with the Vampire book when they fight that wraith, like the vampires that have gone insane.
Yeah.
And they're just like skeletal.
He does look wraithish.
Yes.
In the beginning. Yes.
I'm mad that didn't make it into the Interview with the Vampire movie. I would have liked to have seen that with 90s effects. Anyway, so speaking of other movies, other vampire movies, he x-rays Penguin. And he sees his heart in the circulatory system.
Yes.
And I feel like this is just one big commercial of other episodes I've done. But you've also covered this movie, Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Correct.
When Dracula sees Mina in person, he also x-rays her and sees like all this stuff.
see-through gown.
Yeah, I thought that was so cool.
Yes, very well done.
I mean, it's weird seeing Dracula do it to the Penguin from Batman, but I appreciate the reference. So then Joker jumps into the water and accidentally electrocutes himself. And this is like a weird theme with Batman because Batman doesn't kill.
Right.
Obviously, in the movies.
He just keeps putting them in Arkham and they keep breaking out.
They just keep breaking out. In the movies, he tends to kill, but usually comic book cartoon Batman does not kill. So he actually didn't kill him, but it's one of those he still feels guilty about it. He's like, oh, I let him go because he was going to electrocute me and then he died. So his like whole arc throughout the film is I feel bad about killing the Joker. Now, out of the episodes I've watched, I've only seen Joker in the very first one. I don't know if he's just a wacky dude or if he is a murderer in this show. I need to watch more episodes.
Okay.
I personally would not feel bad about the Joker dying.
But Batman's whole thing is brooding, right?
Yeah, he's always looking for reasons to brood. Yeah. It's like, dude, it wouldn't have been your fault. Relax.
Yeah.
Like, the Joker died. Be happy. Dracula continues to stalk the Penguin, and then he like attacks a random guard, and the guard is now a vampire too.
Turns fast.
They turn fast, so they make a point later on to say like he's not actually killing anyone. He's turning all of them.
He's infecting them.
Yes. Unlike the comic book one who was sucking the blood out of everybody.
Right. So we find out they're not necessarily like undead. They're just infected.
They can be cured.
Correct.
That was the thing. Yeah.
Correct. Because it's a kid's show.
It is a kid's show.
Yes.
It's like they're either going to turn to dust, not violently, or they're going to be cured by the end of it. So yeah, then he mind controls Penguin.
He Renfields him.
He Renfields him. I was
Yeah.
going to say Penguin is Renfield.
And it was a good bit where he was like, I answer to no one. And then
Yeah.
he's like, Master.
He like drops on a
so
flips
good.
on a dime.
He's like, what can I do for you, Master?
And I think they did a pretty good character for the Penguin, especially this version of the Penguin. I thought was pretty funny. I'm enjoying him as Renfield.
Yes.
What is? I've read the Dracula book. We've talked about this. Like, what is Renfield's deal? How did Dracula mind control Renfield in the book? I never understood how he did that.
So again, I don't know that they ever expected anyone to like break it apart.
Yeah, okay, maybe
So
that's
they
it.
just they're like, and now he's crazy and he eats bugs because
And he knows who Dracula is.
right, because he went before Harker went.
But no. I feel like that's something the movies came up with.
Right.
Because in the book, they're like, it's just like, oh yeah, that crazy guy knows a lot about Dracula. It's like, how does he know him?
Right. So it's as obviously Dracula had to have come across Renfield at some point, unless he's like.
Unless he can project himself,
Or
I don't
he
know.
can psychically connect to, I don't know. But again, I don't think when they wrote the book that they ever thought anyone was going to like break apart the specifics.
Someone's like, Brom, what if some assholes on YouTube?
He's like, I don't care.
And he's like, what's a YouTube?
What's a YouTube?
Oh, it's a video. He's like,
No one's ever going to read this.
what's a video? I don't know
Yeah.
what that is.
Right. And here we are.
He's all like, Dracula's not even my best book. It's
No one's
what
gonna
other
read
book?
this.
And
Yeah.
he wrote a mummy book, I think. I have the
Did
audio
he?
version of it. Yeah. And I think they made a movie version of it. I doubt it's relatable to the book. I think they just slapped
Did you ever
his name
read
on it.
Dracula's Guest?
No, I know what it is though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were like, cut that. You don't need it.
It's implied that maybe that is Renfield,
Correct.
I think. Okay, I
That's
feel
where
like
I was
some
going
people
with that.
bridge the thing. Like, okay, maybe that was Renfield and that's what happened. Anyway, he doesn't have Renfield. He just gets Penguin. He's like, Penguin, you're my dude. I mind controlled you. So he has mind control powers, or like glamoring if you watch True Blood.
Yep.
When we have Batman feeling conflicted about Joker dying, he theorizes that he was killed and then his body was sent to Gotham.
Nice little wrap up. They're like, they must have thrown me on a ship and sent me to Gotham. So
But
then who
why?
got you in Gotham and wrapped chains around you?
But why?
And why Gotham?
That's a good question. Why did they send him specifically to Gotham? Why didn't they burn him? I guess this Dracula doesn't need to sleep in his soil because they didn't send the soil with him.
We don't know that.
Well, he doesn't have any there. He
But
just
you
has his
would think
box.
that they don't want to make him comfy, right? Because
No.
he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
So
I don't understand
like-
why they shipped him and didn't just burn him.
That's what I would have done.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Like,
Unless-
finish the job.
Unless they were like, we've killed Dracula. Let's burn him. And someone's like, no, I hate Gotham. Send him to Gotham and make it their problem.
Or maybe after Quincy stabs him, because Quincy's the only American, he's like, I know a city.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'll make sure everything's good. And then he forgot. He forgot that Dracula was being sent to Gotham. Just walked away.
Fucking Quincy. Why do they always cut Quincy out?
I love Quincy.
They always cut him out. My favorite
And
thing
he's
is
the guy.
he's the guy who does.
It's because he's American.
I agree. All those Brits, they don't want to give the Americans any credit for killing Dracula. Even in the Stoker movie, they were like, "Oh, but then Mina does it." It's like, "Oh, come on,
I
give this
know.
one to
And
Quincy."
Quincy's always kind of a joke too. He's
Yeah.
kind of like the comedic, like
Yeah, but like
cowboy.
I said, half the time they just don't include him.
I know.
They're like, "Nah,
Poor
get him out of there."
Quincy.
They're like, "What?" They're like, "A cowboy and Dracula." I was like, "Yes, it's awesome, you assholes."
But like that was an Irishman's idea of an American.
Yeah,
It was
which I
like a
think's pretty
big
funny.
knife, a big hat, just kind of goofy.
Pretty cool.
American.
So yeah, he's like, all right, well, I'm here now. Let's turn more people into vampires. Let's do this. So Batman is on a date/interview with Vicky Vale. Mm-hmm. I didn't watch any episode where she got introduced, so we're in the middle of their relationship, I guess.
I think it's the beginning though.
It's
So I
close
think
to
that's
the
like
beginning,
their
yeah.
first date.
I want to say this movie came out like during the first season of the show. It went like 4 seasons, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's early on for Vicky. And I mean, she seems like Vicky Vale more than Kim Basinger, who was a last-minute replacement. Go watch our Michael Keaton reviews. But yeah, Bruce is talking about his date, and then he gets sad again.
Wait, so
okay,
during the date,
Yeah.
he makes mention of the fact that they're working on alternate energy sources.
Right.
And as soon as he said that, I was like, how much you want to bet it's solar? How much you want to bet?
What else would it be? What else could it have possibly have been?
And this is where we get to see that it's a full moon. Mm-hmm. And it's a full moon for the entire movie, even though it's like 2 weeks.
That's true.
The
moon lasts a really long time.
Which has nothing to do with vampires.
Yeah, it really doesn't. It just looks
Like-
spooky. People just like it because it looks spooky.
Oh, Gotham.
A woman is on her way home, and she gets attacked by the guard cop. And Batman saves her from that. And then more vampires attack.
Wait, so Batman's watching.
Yes.
She gets pickpocketed. He grabs her purse and runs.
Mm-hmm.
The security guard meets the bad guy in the alleyway.
Yeah.
Turns the bad guy. Comes. Batman's watching this whole thing go down.
Yeah, he's not really interfering.
The security guard comes around. And he's like, "Oh well, I guess that this girl's going to be fine."
Mm-hmm.
And then he bites her.
Yeah.
And now he has to fight 3 vampires because they
Yes.
turn like in
They turn
seconds.
instantly.
Yeah.
And for someone who is feeling conflicted with the fact that he might have accidentally killed someone, he does not hesitate to let them get hit by a train. He
No.
sees a train coming, he's like, "Oh, it sucks for you guys." And
Yeah.
he gets out of there.
Yeah.
But since they're vampires, they don't die.
But he doesn't know they're vampires at this point.
He doesn't. He
So
doesn't. He just knows
let,
there's
like,
something
3
up.
people get hit by a train.
Yeah. And now Dracula's learning about Batman. And he's
Yes.
very interested in Batman. And also, he's apparently drank enough blood that he looks young again.
Yes.
And he wants to make this the city of the undead.
And he refers to Batman as, "Oh, my legacy has lived on."
Yes.
So he sees Batman as someone who's like mimicking him or taking on his lifestyle.
I
or
guess so.
almost like-
Well, yeah, because he can
Because
turn.
you know he's not a vampire. You can
Yeah.
sense other vampires. So you see this guy with the cape and bat ears, and you're like, "Oh yes."
The funny thing is, the only thing I can think of is it's because Dracula can turn into a bat, but Dracula doesn't do that in this movie. And why I think, because the show, so there is a character in Batman called Man-Bat, and it's a scientist. Yeah. No, it's a cool character. It's a scientist who experimented on himself with, like, he has different reasons depending on what version. And this one, he was just an asshole who wanted to be like Batman and took it too far.
Cool.
But yeah, so at this point in the show, he's already fought Man-Bat, who is a giant bat. So I feel like they were like, all right, well, we already kind of did that in the show. Maybe we don't need our Dracula to do that. But then it is weird that he's like, he's just like me. And it's
He
like,
literally said, "My legacy has lived on."
Yeah.
I'm just like, what?
and it's like, okay, well, other than being wealthy, and you're not a bat. Yeah, so
'Cause
it's
he has
weird
a
that
cape?
he's like
So
compared.
like anyone with a cape.
I guess anyone with a
He's
cape.
like, "I started the cape thing."
So what you call it? I know Superman is in this particular universe. Would he see Superman and go like,
Maybe.
literally me?
That Dracula is
Literally.
egotistical.
Yeah, I don't like when people see someone who are nothing like them and go, "That's literally me." I never do
Copying
that.
me.
I literally never do that.
Right.
When I compare me to someone, it's because I am them. Like Glenn Powell, our
Oh,
co-star
yes.
from The Dark Knight Rises.
I know.
Man,
I know.
the three of us did really great work in that film.
I know.
I feel like maybe I did the most work, but you guys were good too.
Thanks. Well, you forgot to mention that
Yeah.
when they're talking about the people who are going missing rapidly in this city, they're calling them the Lost Ones.
Yes,
Do you think that's a reference to the Lost Boys?
that's pretty funny if it is.
I kept hearing it, and I was like, do you think it's supposed to be the Lost Boys?
I can see that. They are dropping references like left
Yes,
and
they
right.
do, yeah.
So it does make
Little
sense.
homage. So Batman goes back and says to Alfred, they were vampires.
He does.
After he fights the 3 and they get hit by a truck or a train, I don't know at what point in this fight he was
Yeah.
like, "I know what you are."
I
Vampires.
just happen to guess you're vampires. So Dracula decides he's going to go to Bruce's party.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Coppola one, he shows up as like a shadow and teleports in the
Mm-hmm.
middle of the room. It's like, dude,
No one saw it.
no one saw. Like, could you have done that like 5 feet from the door? Like,
Totally.
you did it in the middle of the party.
So obviously he doesn't need invited in.
No, he does not need to be invited in.
So we caught that.
So we caught that.
Mm-hmm.
Alfred is yelling at a surfer dude.
Mm-hmm.
Gotham doesn't seem like a surfing town, so I don't know what that dude's doing there. It's because
know.
they can't really call him a stoner.
Right.
But they're like, he's a surfer dude. And tells him to get back to work at the party. Dracula makes the moves on Vicky Vale, and he uses an alias. Go ahead.
Dr. Alucard. Yes.
Which I believe was first done in Son of Dracula.
Right.
Yes.
And we see it in Castlevania.
Castlevania.
And I think it's interesting that he gives himself another name, very close to his own name. Like you're kind of asking to get caught.
Yeah.
But also made himself a doctor.
Oh, yeah, that's fun. Oh, I guess that's also a double reference to Ed Wood, Dr. Acula.
Yes.
He should have just
So I was
went
like,
with Dr. Acula.
You're a doctor now. Okay.
But all his knowledge is so dated.
It's like you could have gone with Count. People would have been impressed.
But what do you do there? Where you're like, oh, doctor, listen, I have
They'll never question me.
I've been really feeling real fatigued since this cold I have. And he's like, well, obviously you need better leeches. And they're like,
Right,
I'm
exactly.
sorry, did you say leeches? He's like, I'm a doctor. It's like, oh no, no, he should have went on the internet for 5 seconds.
Correct. Well, he doesn't know what the internet is. We'll get to something later though.
Oh, yeah, he mentions, because he's talking about while he's there, and he's like, yeah, I want to investigate this bat guy. Bat people have trended throughout history.
Yes.
Oh, man, this is just the newest poser. And Bruce Wayne's like, I thought I was being original.
I know.
I thought I was
And
cool.
so this is the party where Bruce mentions that they're capturing solar energy.
Yeah.
So I was like, there it is.
Yeah.
And I kept waiting for the line. This was there's wine everywhere.
We're going to get to the big wine thing in a minute. But
Yeah.
first, Dracula can eat raw meat.
Yes, steak tartare,
Yes, but not garlic.
but not garlic.
And
And
so
you know what that reminded me of? Have you ever seen Waxwork?
No.
Oh.
Have I?
I'd be
If I
surprised
did, I
if
don't.
you haven't.
If I
but
did, I don't remember.
They
it.
get pulled into different worlds based on the waxwork display that they fall into.
Is the poster for that like a little guy like this?
Yes.
Okay, I've seen the poster. I've
Yes.
never. I don't think I've watched.
And there
the
is a
movie.
vampire one where they all eat steak tartare.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, then that might be a reference to that.
Maybe.
For a kid's Dracula Batman movie, they're dropping a lot of references.
You got to keep the parents entertained.
Whoever was writing this was a real vampire nerd.
I
Did
think
you
so,
write
too.
this movie? I would love to write a Batman thing, but it'll all just be about like me. Batman would be like, I gotta save Gotham and my best friend Tony. He's so cool.
He's the reason I live.
He's the reason I became. Oh, wait, your parents? Like, no, not so much. I just wanted to make sure Tony was safe. So
I want
became,
Tony to be proud of me.
Oh no, Dracula's going after Tony.
No.
He wants his blood because it's so cool. It's like movie comes out. That's the worst Batman movie ever.
And who's Tony?
It was this Tony guy. So the surfer dude goes into the
Wine cellar?
cellar. They never say wine, and you're right. This would have been the perfect.
So first off, how rich do you have to be to have massive barrels of wine?
Bruce Wayne is
That
a
you just keep-
multi-billionaire from old money,
Yeah,
so he's
yeah.
very rich.
So our stoner waiter is filling up a wine bottle with red wine, and I was like, oh, we're gonna get it. We're
Yeah.
gonna get the line.
Yeah. Instead, he attacks him, and I think they have the wine spilled to simulate
Correct.
blood. That's their PG way of getting around
Correct.
it. Clever.
Yeah,
Clever.
because later on they also put it in shadow, so it's not red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad they at least say that he is biting people, even if
Yes.
they're not showing it. Because,
Yeah.
we were talking about your favorite vampire, Michael Morbius. In the cartoon on Fox Kids, they weren't allowed to have him biting people.
Interesting.
So they gave him little holes on his hands and he sucked your energy. That was their kid way around it. I like this more where they're like, he's biting them. We're just not going to show you or show you the blood because energy sucking vampire was weird. But that's the episode I think where we got Blade, which was cool.
I do love Blade. All right.
Some motherfuckers always trying to ice skate uphill. He said it again in Deadpool.
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
they couldn't come up with a new cool line for him.
Oh, speaking of cool lines, we skipped over this one.
Okay.
When Batman's talking to Alfred and he's like, I'm pretty sure I just fought vampires. Alfred says, before one urban legend becomes obsessed with another, don't forget that you have a party. And I was like, what a great line.
So he mind controls Bruce. And
Just to get him out of the
Just to
way.
get him out of the balcony.
So he uses all of his
Yeah.
powers just to be like, you go.
Yeah, get out of
I
here.
don't like you.
Doesn't read his mind to find out
Nope.
that he's Batman. Just
No.
sends him away.
And it's a full moon again.
And it's a full moon again.
For no reason. Because it's not a werewolf movie.
Alfred yells at the surfer dude, and then realizes he has no reflection. So we have the no reflection vampires in here.
Correct.
And then Bruce Wayne figures out that Alucard is Dracula by writing in the plate.
And tell me that didn't remind you of Monster Squad.
Yeah.
Where he did that. Yes.
What do they do? In Son of Dracula, I think they just read the thing
and he
backwards.
flips the silver tray up, and he's like, dun, dun, dun. Dracula.
Dracula's got the worst, like, fucking... What did he say?
Just say your name is, like, Steve
Or
Jones.
Vlad.
Yeah.
My name's Vlad.
You can come up with any name.
Yeah. There are some that call me Tim. It's from Monty Python.
I go by many names.
I go by many names. All right, well, what is your current name so I know what to call you?
Right. So he flips the tray, and I'm going to guess that Bruce, I'm adding this to the lore, Bruce is as knowledgeable about vampires as myself, has been studying them his whole life, because he immediately knows who Dracula is.
Yeah.
He knows all of the lore.
That is the weird thing. Like... when they do that, where like Dracula is a story in the universe, I'm like, how does that make sense? I'm like, how does that make sense at all? Because it confused me in Monster Squad. I'm like, well, what has he been doing for the last 100 years between that intro and
business? Dracula
Okay.
stuff. Dracula stuff. But like, at what point in time did Batman?
Yeah.
Like, where did he have the time, and also why know that much about Dracula?
Yeah, specifically Dracula. It's not even like, okay, vampires. I've heard of vampires before, but like...
And Alfred is in. Like, he never questions him. He's just like, yep, that's who it is.
Like I said, I only got a few episodes of the first season, so I don't know if at this point they've introduced like there's been a lot of sci-fi stuff. I don't know if they've introduced supernatural stuff like Ra's al Ghul, Ra's al Ghul, Liam Neeson. In the comics, he's the one he takes like magical bubble baths that keep him young, and so he kind of is like a Dracula, Ra's al Ghul, the comic cartoon version. The Nolan movie is very different.
Yeah.
So I don't know if in this universe he's interacted with that yet. So maybe that's why he's more open. He's like, you know what? Fuck it. There's vampires now. Makes sense to me. He's like, I've seen a couple weird things already. Vampires are fine.
Yeah.
So they find out that he hasn't actually killed them. They're just turned.
Yes.
So they're going to come up with a plan to bring him back. And luckily they have all the medical knowledge of all time because Bruce Wayne's dad was a doctor. They just need one of his victims to figure out how to solve it. And then Vicky talks to herself.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
She's on the internet doing research, and she's like, what is it about you that keeps me coming back? Is it the hot bod? Is it all the money? No, it's something deeper. And I'm like, really, girl? Like,
I think it's the hot bod and the money.
Why are you questioning it?
Yeah, I think we're good with the hot bod and the money.
Why do you have to dig deeper into that?
Just stop there. Hot bod, body, money.
It's the weirdest writing of all the stuff in this movie that is, you have to suspend disbelief.
Yeah.
The one where she's like, what is it? What is it about you? It can't be the hot bod. It can't be the billions of dollars.
Who would believe it, Lena, that someone would be really into Bruce Wayne's hot bod?
It's got to be your tragic backstory.
It has to be. I don't know what else it could be.
That's what I'm into.
I mean, every girl who's ever dated me, they've only been into my hot bod. That's the only reason.
That must be sad.
I wish they would like me for more than my hot bod.
It's your celebrity.
That's what
Don't kid yourself. Yeah.
That's what they're after. She takes off to a scene of the crime, and a homeless man is wrongly accusing Batman of kidnapping people because he saw Dracula instead, who again doesn't really look like Batman other than the cape. It's not even the right color cape.
I don't know.
But yeah, he gets accused.
Mm-hmm. It was a bat. I saw a huge shadow of a bat.
And Penguin is showing on a plasma screen TV. Those used to be a thing.
So I was like, this TV's hooked up in clearly a cavern.
Yeah.
How?
I don't know.
And Penguin's like, are you proud of me?
He's got a generator like 10 feet off, the real quiet generator.
Like, how are you getting... What is your source for the news? How is it hooked up? Where is it coming from? I just imagined like a really long extension cord like up out of the ground, like plugged into someone else's outdoor outlet.
I like the plasma, like blood. And then he also says something. I have it here. He's really
like, plasma, get it?
He's really horny. He says something about Vicky.
Does he?
He says something like it's been a while or something for Dracula. Something along those lines.
Because that implies that like she's so hideous that he must be desperate because he's been locked in a box for 100 years.
But Dracula wants her as a
Yeah.
bride.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's time to seek my bride.
They rip off a completely different Universal monster at the end, which we'll get to.
Yes.
Alfred gives Batman a vampire hunting kit.
Yes.
And a guard calls in that Batman is in the graveyard.
And Batman's like, well, it can't be here because there's crosses everywhere.
Yes. Although it is there, but I guess the crosses don't really affect him. Yeah. He's going by what he thinks is right. So the cops attack Batman and he flees into the city. And what do you know? Out of all the buildings he crashes into, there's Dracula. He just happened to be there.
And we get our first showdown.
Yes. Dracula meets the Batman. They talk about how they're the same, and Batman doesn't go, what do you mean? Because we both work at night?
I know. It's like Looney Tunes? What are
Yeah,
you
I'm just
talking
like,
about?
are you also a bat?
But I do like the silhouettes.
Yes.
Side by side.
Yeah.
And Dracula's cape is awesome, by the way.
Yeah,
It's
we've gone this whole time without saying it's Peter Stormare.
Oh, I know. How did we not
How did we
mention that?
forget that? Yes, it's Peter Stormare.
He is so good. The voice is.
Yeah. I've always loved his voice.
I love him.
Whenever I think of him, my mind always goes to Armageddon. Russian space station.
Yeah.
But no, he was great. He shows up in like everything.
Yeah.
He's been in other DC comic things too. I think there was a season of Arrow. He was Count Vertigo. He was a different Count. He was the character. They had a Count Vertigo who sucked. And they're like, here's his dad, the real Count Vertigo. And he
Yeah.
was way cooler.
And we have a vampire crossover because he was in Day Shift on Netflix.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your vampire crossover. I'm sure there's some more, but that's the big one.
That's the one that I immediately was like, oh.
And he's doing a
remember.
great job with the voice.
So good.
Yeah, I kind of would like to see
So
him
good.
as an actual Dracula,
Me
in live
too.
action.
Me too. But the cape is awesome.
Yeah.
And Batman's blades are dipped in garlic.
Yes, I thought that was cool. He really thought it through. They fight and Dracula has the upper hand until the sun comes up. So
Correct.
sunlight will kill him in this.
Yes.
And he bounces.
And Batman was like, he was about to get his ass handed to him.
Yes, he was literally
He was
about to
getting
die.
destroyed.
Yeah.
So thankfully the sun came up and Dracula says something like, next time we part. Oh, what was the line?
I don't
like,
write it down.
next time I did because I was like, oh, that's dark. He said, next time we do not part until maggots feast on your flesh. I'm going to use that from now on. Like if someone pisses me off at the grocery store, I'm just going to look them in the eyes and
I'm
say
not going to leave the maggots feast on your flesh. What?
maggots. Ew. It's a good line.
How many people are pissing you off at the grocery store? Jesus Christ.
I'm just saying if it happens.
Oh, okay.
If it happens in the future, now I have the perfect comeback.
Okay,
I'm going to
good,
keep that in my
good.
back pocket. Yeah.
So Alfred patches up Bruce, and then Bruce has a weird nightmare about his parents, which is real trippy, and I like that in vampire
So
stuff.
I was going to ask this. Do you think Dracula sent him the nightmare? Because it's a vampire trope that they can enter your dreams and
Yeah.
send you nightmares and kind
Well,
of.
that
mess with your
actually, it's
brain.
funny you mentioned that because in this, he is having nightmares about the girl vampire.
Correct.
So I don't know if it was a reference to that, but
Correct.
I wasn't expecting like trippy
It was.
imagery in this.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's thinking about his parents dying, which kind of ties into the whole Joker thing because Batman, like in a way, always blames himself for letting his parents
Brooding.
die. Which again, he was an 8-year-old. It's
Brooding.
like, it wasn't your fault, kid.
Get some therapy, man.
Yeah. But it turns out Joker lived. He doesn't have to feel bad. And he wants Penguin to give him the treasure, not realizing the treasure is a Dracula, and they fight, and Dracula turns a vampire. Dracula turns Joker into a vampire, and he wakes up. He literally wakes up and just grabs Joker.
Yep.
Turns him right there, and Penguin says, breakfast in bed, fresh squeeze.
I know. Penguin's got the dad jokes.
He really
Yeah.
does.
It's just easy pickings, just real easy jokes.
Okay, so Joker attacks a nurse at a blood bank, and Batman
Right.
investigates, and he's crawling on the ceiling like, I know like Dracula could do that, but he's crawling like the lady in Exorcist 3.
Or
the old lady.
Lestat in Queen of the Damned.
Or
when
that,
he climbs
too.
up on the. But I think it's funny that this is like
Yeah.
state of the art blood bank.
Oh,
State of,
yeah,
but the sign is.
Can we talk about the blood bank
Can we
layout?
please?
So
So, for people who don't know, I'm a nurse.
Okay.
I've been in many a blood bank.
yes.
They're not standalone. They don't just have like test tubes everywhere and like blood
No.
accessible.
There are shelves of test tubes there's like maybe 12 test tubes on a shelf and there's a foot in between them. And I guess this whole room is cooled. It's in a giant brick room. Like, couldn't you put all of these in a tiny shelf in like a freezer?
And there's only one person working it.
Yeah. And the shelves are not bolted to the
Nope.
wall. If you hit them, they'll fall over.
No. I was like, this blood bank.
It seems like the worst.
Whoever's in charge of the blood bank is in charge of Arkham Asylum.
Do they still keep blood in giant glass tubes?
No.
I was going to say, are they in bags now? Or?
No, I mean, like the only thing that you would test would be like blood type.
Yeah.
But that would be a sample coming from a person because you already know the type of the blood in the bag.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what is this blood bank? But it like clearly is state of the art in Gotham.
Yes.
But the outside sign is neon, like a bad hotel, like a really cheap hotel. And I'm like, what sign is this for the blood bank? But
I get they wanted like gothic imagery for both Batman and Dracula. Like, this is a very upsetting blood bank. This doesn't look right. So they fight, and I like that all the blood pours on Joker, and he just goes feral. He starts looking more like an animal at one point.
and this is where they make sure that the blood is like black.
Yes, yeah. So it's conveniently in a shadow, so
Correct.
it's black liquid, and he's in a shadow, so you don't actually see it.
Yeah.
That was clever. If you're going to do it, it's clever.
Because it would be very good. It's a lot of blood.
Yes, and then Batman hits
And he's
him.
like covering himself and he's like rolling around in it. Ah.
And then Batman hits him with a garlic bomb.
Yes.
Which
Yes.
knocks him out. Batman is going to experiment on him and try to make him into a human again. And they're doing a bunch of science and it doesn't work. That was my note. They do science and it doesn't work.
Why does Batman have so many cages in the Batcave? I was like, he doesn't just have one cage. He has multiple
he has
cages.
a couple
Like,
cages.
who are you caging?
That's a good question. How often
Batman.
how often are you bringing people to the Batcave and
Batman.
need to leave them
Why do
in
you
a
need
cage?
multiple cages? Just
Good question.
something to think about. I was
Maybe-
like, there's some lore there we don't know about.
Maybe it's answered in the show. I don't know. Maybe I'll get there. Maybe there's an episode where he's like, Alfred, I need 5 cages in the cave.
Don't ask questions. So he's testing the blood.
Yeah, but then an old man is attacked by some vampires, and even the vampires themselves are starting to look more animal-like. I guess like the longer they go, the more vicious and feral they look. Batman keeps doing science, nothing works. He forgets about his date with Vicky, and she is sad about that.
And there's garlic on the front door.
Yeah, I like she goes to the room and Alfred has to distract her. She's like, "Are you cooking? Like, is there just garlic
She's like, do I
smell
smell
everywhere?"
garlic? Yeah.
And he's like trying to get her out. He's making up lies and shit. And then Joker is like going through withdrawals, which again I thought was like I know it's blood and vampirism, but we know what this is like alluding to.
He's
like,
fiending.
Yeah.
He's fiending hard.
Really bad.
Yeah.
But Batman perfects the cure and saves the Joker. Now
Yeah.
he's just a regular psychopath.
Right. And
Good job, Batman.
And so we're in a city where hundreds of people have gone missing in what we assume is like a week or two.
Yeah.
And they let her walk home alone.
That Alfred should be like, hey, you know what? I'll drive you.
I'm like, you know what? Not Alfred couldn't just be like, let me get you a car. I know you have cars and drivers.
Yeah.
So they let her walk home alone.
Yeah.
And the science is a drop of Joker's blood. And then they have like a solar lamp,
Yeah.
essentially, that is supposed to be the power of the sun.
Yeah.
And if they're able to cure the blood, then it won't disintegrate in the sun.
Yes.
That's the science
Yes.
that he's working on. And I
It
was
kind of reminded me of
okay.
you reviewed it, Daybreakers, how
Yes.
sunlight was like there was like that freak accident where Willem Dafoe accidentally cured himself, and they're like, we need to be able to do this, but without killing ourselves.
correct.
So yeah, like a brief exposure to sunlight. Yeah. So that's what they're going to try to do. They make it work. It was also a result of being turned back into a human. You have no memory being a vampire.
Correct. So the virus is essentially infecting the blood. The cure wipes the virus out of your blood, but it takes away the memory of anything that happened from the moment you were infected.
Yes. Which is
Convenient.
cool. Convenient. He makes vampire curing bullets for Dracula. That
are injectable.
That are injectable. Vicky tries to catch a train and Dracula finds her. Dracula offers her a drink, but she just wants to get out of there. She calls Bruce, but Bruce ignores the call. And then Dracula, his whole plan, we find out, is that he wants to take Vicky Vale and put his dead wife's ashes, who he was in love with, who was even more ruthless than him.
Yes.
For some reason, she got ashed and Dracula didn't. But anyway.
And her name is?
I forgot her name.
Carmilla.
Carmilla.
Which is a huge vampire reference.
Okay, what is that a reference to?
Carmilla is a book by Sheridan Lee Fanu that came out prior to Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay, yes.
About a lesbian vampire, very shocking at the time, who stalks a young girl. And so Carmilla is very often used in vampire lore.
Okay.
But that was another vampire reference.
I've heard about that. I think I might have interviewed someone who said they were trying to make a movie on that. One of the directors I interviewed.
Yep.
And I can't for the life of me.
Yeah, there's a Hammer film based
maybe it was
on it.
Jack Shoulder. I wonder if it ever got made. But no, all right,
It's an
that's a
old
very
one.
deep reference.
Very
Again, they're
good
going
story.
like real hardcore in the
That's
references.
why I'm like, I'm watching this going, whoever wrote this,
yeah.
they know a thing or two about vampires.
Yeah, they really did their homework.
Yeah.
But yeah, he wants to use her body to bring back his dead wife. I've seen The Mummy. That's literally the plot of the original Mummy and the Brendan Fraser movie, the first one. To use the person to bring back the wife.
The spirit, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like...
So he's like sucking her spirit out to like replace it with Carmilla's spirit. I'm confused about what's happening.
I don't
there.
know the specifics of how it's happening, but that is his plan. He wants her body to be a vessel for his ex-wife.
Right. And we also find out that Dracula has been bypassing all of the crosses by using the underground cavern.
Right, that's what he did, yes.
So that's how he's able to bypass all the crosses.
Yes,
So when-
and they have like a network of caverns that they've mapped out. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Batman breaks in like Blade
Yes.
with his new weapon, but unlike Blade, it doesn't blow people up. It
Right.
like just cures them. Yeah, he's just stabbing
He's just-
all of them.
So remember, he was being bested by 3 brand new fledgling vampires.
Yeah.
But he takes on like hundreds.
Well, he's more prepared now.
Correct.
That's
right?
the whole thing. Can Batman beat this person? Everyone goes, how much prep time does he have?
Right.
Because
And
Batman
so
will
he's
come up
got
with something.
this like
Yeah, he's got the bandoliers.
Yeah. Oh, he's ready. It's like down his thighs. And so I'm catching as I'm watching this, the injectable apparently can go in any part of your body.
Yeah.
Because at one point in time, you get someone in the forehead.
Yeah.
What?
Well, the brain is where vampire is. You got to hit the brain.
Nope.
I know.
That's
I
not
know.
me. So he's like getting arms, he's getting abdomens, he's getting wherever he can stick that thing in. And then they immediately turn back.
Yes. He interrupts the soul transference and tries to use it on Dracula, but it doesn't work. He then gets like mind controlled. And they enter Bruce Wayne's mind and it's all trippy again. But Bruce Wayne in his subconscious faces his fear of bats. And him facing his fear of bats somehow breaks the mind control
his
of Dracula.
moment.
Yes. And he's able to get out of that spell. So then he shoots Vicky with the serum. Dracula's not happy, so he just wants to kill her.
Yeah.
Because his whole plan was fucked up, but then Batman fights him.
And they end up in the Batcave because of this whole
Yes.
underground system.
They're
But-
going through the signal, and he's like talking to Alfred the whole time, like
And
trying
again,
to
Alfred
avoiding.
needs
Yeah.
all the raises.
Yes, he does.
That is one loyal servant. But before that, we find out the reason that the cure doesn't work on Dracula is because he is not a virus.
Yes.
His vampirism is not a virus.
No.
His is supernatural.
Yes.
So we don't know what the origin of this Dracula is.
Do you
But
think?
we do know it's something.
Do you think he just had a bad day and went, I denounce God
and
when
stabbed
I
across?
and stabbed across and went,
Possible.
and when I come back, I'm gonna have a bunch of cool powers.
Possible. Or
That's
pact
just-
with the devil is a common one. But for whatever reason, his vampirism is not curable because he's the origin.
Yes, yes. Which is kind of in these types of stories. They're like Dracula's the
Classic.
origin one. They did that. They
Classic.
did that in Blade Trinity. They're like he's the oldest.
Oh,
So
Blade Trinity.
I've reviewed it. Don't worry, I've reviewed it.
Buddy.
So yeah, I do like that he leads him to the Batcave, which is actually the one similar thing to this, how they led all the vampires to the cave
Yes.
for part of their plan. But
Yep.
then he trashes the Batmobile. I'm like, that was mean,
Yeah.
Dracula. Why'd you have to take it out on the car? It wasn't even using the car at that moment. And while this is going on, Vicky is hiding from the Penguin. He's chasing her around the cemetery. And it turns out that treasure was real. He accidentally...
Wrong crypt. I thought that was so great.
For a minute, I thought maybe this would have been like a long con, like that guy in the prison was Renfield, and he was purposely getting them to.
So I was like, is Dracula the treasure? Was this all like?
Yeah, for a minute, I was like, oh, was that like
So
part
then
of his
they
plan?
bust
It's like,
open a coffin and all the gold
yeah.
doubloons fall out.
So
and
now it's just like, oh, it just was an accident.
So if they had just gone to the right none of this would have happened.
By the way, if I'm like the cops investigating, it's like, so one had treasure, the other one had Dracula. What the fuck is in all these
I
other
would have been
crypts?
like, boys, we need to check every
We need to
single,
check
like,
every
we need
crypt.
Who's in charge of the cemetery, first off?
I saw this shit in here.
Yeah.
So you're right. Alfred shoots Dracula. It doesn't work. But Batman leads him to the sunlight machine that he was using for the cure. And he just fries him.
Yes.
And he just turns into like a skull, I think, mostly.
And they
right?
don't show it.
Yeah.
But like, so he ashes and then Batman like punches his
Yeah.
skull to decapitate him.
Yeah.
So they don't show it, but they show him punch down and then
I do love that his silhouette is blocking the sunlight and then he like grapple guns up and that's what fries him.
So, it was
a
so good.
really cool way
It
to
was
kill
so
him.
good. Yeah.
And then I love that Penguin is freed from the spell and he's so happy he has his gold and then the cops are just right there.
And he remembers.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't a vampire, he was a Renfield, whatever,
Yes.
a human servant.
Yes. Or
So they're taking
Yeah.
him away. He's like, vampires, I'm telling you, it's
It was
vampire.
vampire.
You just bought yourself a couple more months at the asylum. Good job.
yeah, and then it just ends. Everyone is saved and Batman strikes a pose.
Yay.
This is better than it had any right to be. It's a fun Batman
Yes,
story,
yes.
and it's a really good Dracula
Yes.
vampire story.
Yes.
But good enough for like tweens, like 10 to 13.
So I turned it on thinking, I have to watch this because
Yeah.
I told Tony I would.
Yeah.
And I really want to work again with the
Yeah.
very famous Tony.
Of course.
So I have to watch this.
Yes.
And I was like, this is actually, I have watched way worse, worse.
I feel bad that I slept on this animated series and this movie. I'm like, wait, I kind of like this stuff. I should
thought
have
it was
given this a
so
chance.
Fun. I thought it was so fun.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking for vampire stuff that families can watch.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do get that question a lot. And this is one I think I will recommend.
Yeah. And I left it upstairs. But this wasn't even the first time Batman fought a vampire. There was an old book where he fought someone called the Mad Monk who was like a vampire. And I have a remake of that book.
Yes.
From like the mid 2000s where he's not, I didn't have a chance to reread it. I feel he's more of a cult leader pretending to be a vampire.
But I do
there's
remember
a lot of
there's
vampire
like
stuff.
a lot of, I do remember he kidnaps a damsel in distress.
Yes,
and,
yes.
There's a lot of that.
So they like redid like that original story. There's a good moment in that book though where Gordon is like, yeah, so we found this guy and there was no blood in his body. He was in the river and Batman's like, well, he was in the river for a few days. Things probably bit him and it probably drained out. And Gordon goes, yeah, that's what I thought. But then we found 3 other people and Batman's like, oh, okay, now it's a thing. Now I got to figure this out.
Correct.
But yeah, there we go. We have Batman versus Dracula.
Yeah.
We have 2 lost films. One comic from the past where he fought a vampire. Batman versus Dracula. Apparently did it 2 more times after this. And now we have the 2004 film, The Batman versus Dracula. I don't know why this keeps happening. I think they should keep doing it.
I will watch the next one.
Why not?
I will absolutely. I'm in for it. I thought it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking for something new and different.
Yeah.
And this was something different. So I had a good time with it. And yeah, some of this stuff is definitely telegraphed early,
Yeah.
but it's for kids.
Yeah.
It's for kids. So they are not going to have a lot of fun if they can't figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to make it so that they can figure out what's going on too. But
Yeah.
for the adults, I had a great time. I thought it was so much fun.
Yeah, I thought it was a great time. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of other superheroes who can fight universal monsters. I'm trying to think.
That would be knowledge I wouldn't have, I don't think.
Yeah. Or if they do Batman versus Dracula again, I'd want Man-Bat in there just so we can have a giant bat. You could work that in there. Like, vampirism, bat guy, something in there.
I feel like they could do that one now.
This one would be cool to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they do their own original version, it'd be cool to have Ra's al Ghul because he's also
Yeah.
eternal. Like maybe he ran into Dracula years ago and it's like, oh, Batman, you need me for this. I know that guy.
Yeah.
I can take care of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great comic. It's a fun little movie. Maybe one day we'll find those missing Filipino or Andy Warhol films and we'll review them.
Yeah.
Right now we just have still images. But Lena, again, where can we find you?
The Beautiful Dead podcast on YouTube. Yes. That's me.
Just on YouTube? Is it just on YouTube?
Anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Okay, yes. You gotta add that
Spotify,
part
anything like
too.
Yeah, sorry. I'm not good at talking about myself.
No,
I'm
no.
just good at talking about vampires. That's
No,
what
that
I
is
do.
the thing when I do, I'm like, is it on YouTube? Like, it's on YouTube and
Anywhere
wherever
you listen to
get.
podcasts, you
Yes.
can find it. I'm on Instagram, The Beautiful Dead Podcast.
Yes.
I'm the only Lena Nazari. I've never come across another one. So.
And then, did you get your Monster Mania table?
Yes.
We will be at Monster Mania.
Probably
maybe
across
across
from
from each other again.
I know. They like to do that. And I think movie dumpsters.
Yeah,
not
movie
that far.
dumpsters always a few
They're
rows down.
usually like
They
right over
just,
there.
if you sign up again, they will keep you in the same place.
Which is good because that's how people find you again
Yeah.
and again and
Yeah.
again. And it's
Yeah.
one of those cons where it's not my best con, but it's my most fun con.
Yeah, I always have a great time, and I have a great time meeting all you
Yeah.
there.
Oh, yeah.
And this
Great
will come
people.
out before that, so go see both of us. Now, Lena, I have a very important thing you need to do before you leave.
Go.
Hold on. We have a fan of the show that was also in the same scene as
Okay.
us, and he gave me a sign. I'm usually the one signing these copies and giving
Right.
them out, but he signed his own copy. I would like you to also sign this copy. Now, don't do what he did. Don't sign on the plastic.
No, you got to pull the thing out. But I would be honored.
Yes, I would
be
like
honored
you to
do
sign
that.
this. Leave space for, I'm sure I'm going to meet all 1,000 people who were there.
Is that how many were there? It was
I don't
a lot
know.
of people.
I have no idea. It was 2 days, so
All I know is they didn't have enough water. For
I didn't
all of
remember
us.
that part.
Oh, I do. Because I think it was, obviously supposed to be football season.
Yeah.
But it was August.
Yep.
So we were in parkas, scarves, and then I think we did that for hours and hours and hours. And then
Yeah.
they came around with one bottle of water for each person.
And like a Nature Valley bar. I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah, there was only like one meal really.
But I had a blast, and all the Steelers were in front of me, and
Yeah.
Ravenstall was right there, and the coach came back, and we got to see the Batmobile. But I remember them being like, okay, we're going to blow up the stadium.
Yeah.
We can only do this once. I know it's going to be very cool. Please don't scream until we say you can.
Yeah, they had that guy on the microphone letting
Yes.
us know all that.
We will let you know when you can be excited. For
Yeah.
now, just please be quiet. Like, this took us hours to set up.
Mm-hmm.
And they shot the whole thing, and then he was like, okay, scream. And we just went crazy. It was so much
That was a
fun.
great time. Do you remember when the IMAX camera ate the film?
Yes.
And
And,
it just-
they said it that we just lost tens of thousands of
Yes,
dollars.
yeah, it like echoed in the stadium.
That was wild.
And if you were following the production, that was like a week after Anne Hathaway's stunt double drove and knocked the lens off the one camera.
Yeah.
I guess that's why there's no shot of her leaving City Hall in the movie, because they shot and she knocked the lens off and they're like, fuck it.
Oops. Oops. There's a lot of stuff that films here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
We
oh
do
yeah.
get a lot
They're
of
always
people out here, a
filming.
lot of things filming out
The
here.
guy in my hotel was telling,
Mindhunters.
yeah. Oh yeah. So the Zombie Museum
Yes.
had a Minehunters
Yes.
exhibit. And I didn't take a picture because I didn't watch Minehunters.
So I was in home care at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and I was visiting a patient as they in the place they were filming, and I was talking to one of the directors or one of the producers, and they were saying that the reason they love Pittsburgh is we have everything the big city has on sort of a smaller scale, so
Yeah.
it's a little more accessible, and we have areas that look like it's still the 70s. We have areas that look like the 90s. Because there's a lot of areas that just haven't been
Yeah.
updated in such a long time. And it's a cheaper city. It's very affordable here. So they love coming out here. But I remember like coming around the corner in scrubs with my nurse bag, and all of a sudden it was 70s cars, 70s clothes, because I had walked into a movie set. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So they're like, hold on one second. What are you doing here? And I was like, I have to go see a patient. I have to hang, medications and stuff. They're like, if you could just give us like 5 minutes and then we'll let you go in. I'm like, okay. They're like, is he going to be okay I was like, oh yeah, no, it's not an emergency. So I got to just like watch the whole thing go down, but I'll never forget just turning the corner and like, it was the 70s. Like what just happened?
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff that filmed here, like Silence of the Lambs.
Correct.
I love it here. Well, this was a fun time.
Yes.
We'll see you all
Thank you
later.
for luring me into the basement.
Yes, thank you for coming into Buffalo Bill's creepy sewing dungeon to record this with me.
It was a good time. It's a good time.
All right, goodbye.
Bye.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our other videos and Patreon page.